I'm very
Happy New Year. And I'm Merle Garrison. What's going on, man?
Oh, just got back, taking the dog for a walk, took a shower right before this, and as it happens, I have this glassed-in shower door, which I have to squeegee down, make perfect every single time.
I do too.
I did that, then looked in the mirror, realized I didn't rinse my hair.
Oh, well, that's a problem that I don't have to worry about.
I know. So I had to go through it all again. So I just had my, coffee as I always do, my 2 giant cups before the walk and everything. Then I come in with I do 1 black tea bag and 1 green tea bag because we did a little special on how great green tea is for you.
Yeah.
So I figure my first cup of tea, which is really 3 cups, to start the day, I will do 1 bag of green tea. Then I go to 2 bags of black tea. After that, just saying, I take our advice seriously. I eat more mushrooms now as a result.
Yeah.
I take nootropics. But what I was getting at with the coffee is the #1 nootropic used in America, and people don't even realize what the hell is a nootropic.
Nootropic? Yeah, what is that? You're getting all fancy on us.
Not really. It's even spelled NOO. Tropic. Like you'd think it'd be like neuro.
Exactly.
Because it really greases the wheels of
sophisticated stuff
your
here.
Neurocognition. It's a cognitive. Know that you have your coffee in the morning, you think better. Oh God, don't talk to me until I have my coffee in the morning.
Right?
It's a neuro enhancer. So I also take lion's mane now. And L-Theanine. These are 2 nootropics as well, help your brain function.
Nootropics. Well, speaking of coffee, I mean,
that's what I was trying to say.
Very interesting that it is also a psychoactive drug.
See,
and I was like, oh my gosh,
about.
Nootropic, psychoactive. I'm drinking psychoactive stuff here. And I had to look up, what does psychoactive mean? It means it affects the mind.
It's a nootropic. Right.
It's a nootropic.
Different word. Exactly. Different word for the same thing.
Right. But did you know it's a $465 billion industry?
I don't doubt it. God,
that is,
dude. It's my one habit. If you call it a bad habit, I don't really think it is, which is why I keep indulging so much. I don't
think it is either.
That. Yeah.
I've got a lot of good news on this, and I'm getting this from the great randomizer. This guy is he's an influencer online, and he does all this research, and he comes back with some really amazing stuff. And this is what he came up with for caffeine and coffee. He says that this caffeine, what it does is it blocks adenosine. It's the chemical that makes you sleepy.
Oh, fine.
And but that's just the beginning. This is also within 20 minutes of taking coffee, you end up having a dopamine level surge. Natural firing rates increase 400%. Neural firing rates increase 400%.
See, there's your nootropic, right.
And memory pathways strengthen, and it focus sharpens dramatically. It's like this is why it feels like you're turning your brain on when you have coffee in the morning. There's other things too, like for instance, your heart rate increases, these physical things. Your heart rate, your blood flow improves 30%. Your metabolism jumps 11%. That's a big deal. When I was dieting, it was recommended coffee would really help me to get through this. It's actually, it suppresses appetite. It increases your metabolism. Coffee is a great thing when it comes to this. And fatty acids release into the bloodstream. That's like putting gasoline into your blood. This gives you that energy boost that you're looking for. Your body is literally being prepared for battle. I mean, this is really what's going on inside your body. And here's some great news. This just keeps getting better. 40% lower risk of liver cancer for coffee drinkers, 32 to 60% lower risk of Parkinson's, and up to 65% lower risk of Alzheimer's. Those are 65%. Just keep drinking that coffee, Barry.
Yeah.
That's really what the message is.
I know that Dr. Andrew Huberman, and I've heard other people say it too, that you should actually wait 2 hours before you have your coffee in
That
the
is
morning
here's what it's saying
to
here is
prevent the afternoon
the
letdown.
the timing of your coffee is key here. And I never knew about this, Barry. I usually have my coffee first thing. Like I gotta have my coffee. But here's what they're saying is that drinking it when cortisol is high
Ah,
between 8 and 9 a.m. Okay, cortisol. What is that? Cortisol is
fight or
kind of
flight hormone.
yes, exactly. It's preparing you to fight. But your body, when you wake up, there's a wake up mechanism that happens that provides cortisol in your body. It's getting you ready for the day to face any kind of adversities you might have. Well, they're saying this that your coffee may interfere with that if you drink coffee while that's happening in your body.
Mm,
And that can lead to increase in anxiety. It reduces the effectiveness of coffee and it disrupts your sleep pattern, like you're saying at night, the sleeping and everything like that. Here's how you do it right. It says that cortisol, known as the stress hormone, peaks about 30 to 45 minutes after waking. So, drinking coffee right away can interfere with this natural process, potentially leading to less effective wakeful and energy levels throughout the day. Experts suggest waiting 60 to 90 minutes after waking to allow cortisol levels to peak and start to drop before consuming
yeah,
caffeine.
I'm sure it's a good idea. I haven't been able to get myself there.
I've tried it.
Yeah.
I studied this a couple of weeks ago, as you know, and I've been trying to not have coffee first thing,
Uh-huh.
maybe wait an hour, and that is so tough.
Yes.
but
Yes.
but I kind of like it. The days that I've done it, I have noticed that I have more of an active day
Mhm.
if I do that. So pretty good. There's some downside too to coffee, and this is
Mm.
all that I was able to find on this, but I'm sure if you look hard enough, you'll find
Yeah.
plenty
Yeah.
of stuff here.
Or wait
But
a year.
yeah, or a day. The
Yeah. Coffee
problems,
changes.
I
Go ahead.
know, right? The problems start when you miss your coffee, right? Like
Yeah.
that
Oh,
is
yeah.
not a
Caffeine
good
withdrawal
thing.
headaches. Oh,
Right,
yeah. I've
right.
been there.
I remember one time my mom and I went to visit my grandmother, and she didn't have any coffee in the house, and we had gotten we had gotten dropped off there, so there was no way for us to go out and get coffee.
Wow.
It was terrible. We had all of the symptoms, both of us, my mom and I. We had
Mm.
the crushing headaches,
Yeah.
extreme fatigues,
Yeah.
irritability, and
Oh,
brain
yeah.
fog.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Terrible,
yeah.
man.
That's a
Um,
total drug withdrawal there. Yeah.
this is why 90% of Americans never skip their morning cup.
Hmm. Hmm.
This gets more and more interesting. The amount of coffee that actually is uh being drunk. Let's see. We already said this. It's a 2.25. Oh, I'm sorry. 2.25 billion cups of coffee are consumed daily.
I'm not surprised, dude.
2.2 125 million people depend on it for their income.
And remember this too. A cup, officially, a cup is very small. And most of us have, I mean, look, this is what I call a cup. There's three
Whoa.
cups in there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Well, okay. So now you're drinking tea in the morning and coffee.
And afternoon. Dude, I was going to bring this up too, since you just brought it up. I don't care how much tea I drink, I never feel it. Now, I drink my
I don't
coffee,
either.
I
Yeah.
feel it. I feel the
Yes.
caffeine.
Huh.
I was wondering if you were the
There
same.
was nothing in there about that, but that is a good call because there's
I don't know.
nothing like the coffee in the morning. Somebody says, "Hey, you want to have some tea in the morning?" No, I don't want tea. I
Well,
want
I
my
do
coffee.
like it after my coffee. It's kind of, I
Okay,
don't know.
after
It's
your
like,
coffee. I'm
yeah,
talking about the
yeah.
first thing.
And in the summer, I'll just let it cool down a bit. I think more like iced tea, but I don't like cold. And Lisa and I are on the same page. We don't put our water pitcher in the refrigerator. We like it
Uh-huh.
room temperature.
Well,
As
interesting.
Yeah, as I do my tea or whatever. In the winter, I like it hot. So, there's that. But I don't ever feel the caffeine from it, to be perfectly honest, the tea.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I like tea. It's just sort of like, you know what I like? I like sleepy time tea. That is some
Oh,
great
that
tea. Have
really
you ever?
works on me. Chamomile?
Oh
That
my
really
gosh.
works on me.
For some reason
Hmm.
that really does work at
Yeah.
it. And I love the celestial tea
Hmm.
version with the little sleepy bear on there.
Yeah, yeah, that's
There's just
chamomile.
something about
Yeah,
that that
it really
makes you feel
works.
real comfy.
There's a lot of
Exactly.
really good teas with a lot of good benefits. So, like I said, while I don't like green tea because it just tastes like muddy water to me or something,
Yeah, yeah.
mix it with my black tea. I'm good, but there's supposed to be so many benefits to it. That's why I'm
It's
doing
the
that.
antioxidants, isn't it? Is
Yeah,
that what it
that.
is?
And it's also an energy boost, a
Oh,
natural energy
yeah.
boost. But you're
Nice.
right,
So wait, hold
antioxidants.
on. But you're not feeling the energy boost.
I've already had my coffee. I'm really
See, it's
pretty
hard to tell,
jacked
right?
as yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly.
So I just hopefully maintain steadiness. I don't know. When we're doing our podcast, it's almost like my security blanket. I have to
Yeah.
have it with me.
Well,
But dude,
there's
we got to move along. We got a lot to cover, and
all right.
I will have a hard stop at about 10:45 my time. Uh, I did want to mention, I'm going to try to keep it brief and for what it's worth. I was just diagnosed with a double hernia. And
Oh,
I just thought it was a valid subject matter for people over 50 because, I always work out, but I work out in such a way that I'm supposed to prevent these kinds of things. I
yeah, yeah,
very much pay attention to my body. It is all about preventative. I don't work out hard to stress myself and cause
yeah.
problems. Is my
Well,
point.
then, how could this happen then?
Yeah, I know. I learned a lot about this since then. I'm not sure how it happened, but a doctor and my cousin, Christmas get together. My cousin's,
Yeah.
he's my age. He's like, "Oh, I've had three." And
Three hernias.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so does that mean that he's doing something
He
drastically
doesn't know how
wrong
he
or
got his either. But he's
three of
something
them?
of an expert. Because my doctor said the same stuff, and he's like, uh, my cousin says, "Well, at our age, we're deteriorating." And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, geez, man. But it's true. And so those stomach linings down there in the lower regions, like it's really close to your crotch, right?
Yeah.
Normally, the normal,
Okay.
the most common ones, they get easily more stressed, more brittle, if you will, at our age. So
Okay.
as I have talked to my dog walking friends and other people about this, and it's like over 50, everyone's had one. And
Well,
it's like,
not me.
well, get ready, dude. So this is
No,
why I'm
I'm not.
giving you
I'm rejecting
information,
this.
so you're ready for it. For one, I mean, it's a drag that you got to go through your general practitioner first to get to the general surgeon to have your intro diagnosis from the general surgeon, then schedule. Come on, I mean, then schedule your surgery. I'm still waiting on that. At this point, they should have a drive-through for this with
Oh
like
my gosh.
iron-on patches. Just
Well,
it's so common. And
well,
and it's just too much bureaucracy to get
yes.
through this.
And that's just not a hernia thing. It's almost anything now in
Yeah.
healthcare. You have to have a team of people now to help you through this whole
Uh-huh.
process. It is the most frustrating thing, and nobody seems to want to help you. But yes, I get
It's a
what you're
fact.
dealing with
And
there.
so that we
So
can
you
move
have a
on. Just
hernia, and you got to deal with all this rigmarole as well. It's not helping the healing process, I'm
yeah,
sure.
so I have that standard hernia that I forget what it's called. I have it on a piece of paper around here somewhere.
Boy,
But I
this is
also
making me
have
uncomfortable.
once I saw the surgeon, he's like, "Yeah, you have two hernias." So we'll
Oh,
give you a two
two? What?
two
Wait.
for one special. He said I also have an abdominal hernia. So that's the belly around the belly button. And I had noticed my belly button changing over the last couple of years.
Okay, can you? All right, maybe for me and the audience, or maybe people like me, what exactly can you define what a hernia is? Because
Yeah, yeah.
now
It's
I'm
a
not really sure.
tear in your stomach wall so that your guts
Stomach wall.
start protruding out. And
Oh,
so you kind of got to push it back in,
it's your
take it easy.
stomach though. It's your stomach muscles.
Yes, and it's an
Okay.
intestine that is pushing its way through the
Oh,
tear. And so what can happen,
tear.
it could literally come way out and become
Wow.
a problem that you got to call 911. and
Oh my gosh.
go to the ER and all of this. And so they say, like, look it up on chat as I did. Don't do Google. Google's always going to tell you you're going to die.
Oh, the
Uh,
worst
yeah,
possible news is on
yeah.
Google.
But in chat, you will get a well-rounded because it scours everything and
That's
makes,
important what you just said right there, because people
yeah.
go to Google right away and it's terrifying.
And
And
it
so
gets you,
what is
you
it
get the
that you go
worst.
to? Chat? What are you
Chat
talking?
GPT,
Oh,
sure.
chat. Oh, really? Okay.
Oh
That's
yeah, oh
pretty
yeah.
cool right
That's the
there. I
best
like
one
what you're
for research.
That's
And
big. That is actually huge advice right there, Perry, because I think people have a knee-jerk reaction to go to like MedMD or
oh yeah,
whatever that is,
hmm
some of these things, but it always tells you the worst case
it
scenario, and
does.
it's awful actually. So this
So
is a great idea.
because this takes so damn long to get taken care of. And I've also found most men will live with it as long as they possibly can. It will not heal itself. You can't do an exercise to heal it. You will need surgery on it. So I want to get this behind me as soon as possible. And in the meantime, I will say this. So, what kind of activity can you do versus restrict? I have found the most common thing for me that exacerbates it is walking Charlie on a long walk.
Really?
However, I also found on Amazon or about anywhere you can get a hernia belt. And
Hmm.
it's kind of like a jock strap with a piece that goes around up your butt like a thong. So it holds in tight with a big kind of cushiony part that holds your stomach in right there where it needs to be. And with it, I've not had any problems at all, walking Charlie and all of this. So
I
I recommend that. But also, like I said, I am trying to get to this surgery as soon as possible. I want to get it behind me
Yeah, I
and back
bet.
to normal. Yeah. So
Wow.
it's just some important information
It
so
is
that you
important.
know what to look for. It would be a
Yeah.
bulge. I first noticed it after walking Charlie in the shower. I'm like, man, what's with this bulge down here?
Uh-huh.
Right in my very lowest stomach area.
Okay. All right. So that's
And so that's,
where to
and
look.
dude, it was like immediately I knew what it was.
You
It's,
did. This has
I
got to be a
remember
hernia.
learning about hernias in health class in high school. It's
Right,
a tear in
right.
your stomach lining and an intestine pushes through.
Did you tell me that it was when you first started to notice it, you dropped something on the floor, and when you went to pick it up, it was just this terrible cramp in your stomach?
Here's what I think caused it, kind of, it's the nearest I can figure. Earlier that evening, it was Christmas Eve. When I went to the gym earlier that day, that morning, I decided, I haven't been doing enough abs lately. So I had a really good ab workout.
Uh-huh.
And so later that day, early evening, Christmas Eve, I was in my car and I needed to stretch way down, trying to get something down off the floor, far, in the drive, the
Yeah,
passenger
yeah.
seat.
Uh-huh.
And my upper ab cramped up super bad. Like you
I've
could
had
see it.
that.
It was like a
Yeah.
knot. And I'm
Hmm.
laying back, trying to stretch it out. I had to jump out of the car, stretching it out and massaging it to get it back to normal. Excruciating. I guess that's the nearest I could figure that is what caused it. Because then I took Charlie for a long walk an hour or two later. And that's when I was like, oh man, what the hell? I took a shower and I could see this bulge there.
Ah, man, that is
Yeah.
really something.
All right,
God.
let's
I,
move
I
on.
have to say that as you were talking about that, I did notice that I was making a face and I was trying not to make the face, but the more you gave details about it, boy,
Mm.
I felt uncomfortable right
It
there.
is, man.
Yeah,
And I
just
just
hearing your
wanted,
thing is making me kind of, oh
I
God,
know, I
that's
don't want to
I don't
creep
want that
it.
to happen to me. That
But
is
if you
that is
do, just handle it right away. Sooner the better. Don't wait till you have to go to the ER for God's sakes.
well,
You know,
but I hate
because it
that you
takes
got
so
to
long
wait
to
for
get the
so
ball
long.
rolling.
Yeah,
Well, dude,
yeah.
that's why I went to, I called the nurse and she's like, you should go to urgent care. If you wait to get an appointment scheduled with your general practitioner, then so you could get referred to a surgeon, she's like, you should just go to urgent care.
Well,
Get the
see,
ball.
these people that go to the ER, I mean, are they getting the operation right away, or are they going?
I
I
would
mean,
think
is that a
so.
way
If
to
you
cut the line?
wait
Yeah.
till see, you can wait to a point where damage is being done. Like
Uh-huh.
you're restricting digestive processes and,
Right, right.
and you're in extreme pain. Could you
Yeah.
imagine having an intestine poking out of a hole so
No, I
much you
cannot
can't?
imagine that.
You don't want
No,
to wait for that. You
no,
don't want to
no.
wait for that.
So there's a tear in your muscle and your intestine is poking out of that. And then
Uh-huh.
they push that back in and sew up the muscle is what
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
operation.
and
Oh,
there's typically a
man.
mesh that is being used. So now that I also have found I have this abdominal one as well,
Yeah.
the doctor's like, okay, we're going to do a twofer for you.
Oh, a
And we're going
twofer.
to go through your belly button, which is another common way to get to that other hernia, but we're going to do it
Wow.
because you have an abdominal one as well, which is also, it's a tear by my belly button where a part of my stomach is coming through a bit, which distorted my belly button just a little bit. Dude, I thought it was simply age with gravity. That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. Well,
And so
the good news is that this is you can heal this.
mhm.
And are there okay? So what's the how long of a healing process are they telling you?
Wasn't as bad. The person, the doctor at the urgent care was like, "Oh, it's going to be 6 weeks. You can't even drive." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" No, the surgeon is like, "No." He goes, "I wouldn't really restrict you from anything that you feel like you can do, but honestly, the first couple days, it's surgery. You're going to be a little uncomfortable. You're going to be very
Right, right.
uncomfortable for a couple days." But he goes, "After that, whatever you feel like you can handle."
Oh, wow.
And
Okay, so
dude,
that's not too bad.
I've already with the hernia belt, I've been back to the gym, only doing things where I'm seated,
Hmm. Hmm.
and doing very lightweight and stuff like that carefully. So I'm not going to just sit on my ass for the next 8 weeks or whatever. No way
Right,
is that
right.
going to happen.
Yeah.
But I
Ah,
don't feel like I could get on and do cardio. I don't feel like
right,
I could get on a treadmill or whatever. I think that would be a bad idea.
right. So this is something that can affect men and women then.
It's mostly men,
Yeah, but
but
it
I'm
could.
sure women. Yeah,
Okay.
but mostly
Right.
men. And, do a quick chat GPT. By the way, wait for the end of this show and catch another AI tip from Mark Tennant. Right at
Yeah,
the end, he
those are
gives
good.
great tips.
Those
Yeah,
are
yeah.
really
We
good,
got a
actually.
few in the docket, so I'm looking forward to his next one as well. With that, Merle, being the new year, I have tons of top five
Oh, cool.
things,
All
and
right.
they're
Great.
very,
Happy
very
New
exciting.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to just ask you briefly because we only touched on this very briefly in the last show. Do you have any New Year's resolutions or any thoughts on that?
I do actually. I have goals for 2025. I don't know if you would call them resolutions or not, but I definitely have business goals and personal goals around exercise, around my weight goals, around travel, around my musical goals as well as our podcast. I have another one that I'm working on as well, and some other side business that I'm doing. So I have goals all around these kinds of things. And I have to say, I am feeling very, very optimistic about
I am
2025.
too.
And
Yeah.
I think it feels like a lot of people are feeling the same way. Could be my imagination because I'm feeling that way, but I definitely have this energy. When I woke up on July or January 1st, I had this incredible feeling of optimism, and I don't always feel like that. And I
Yeah.
just feel like this is the year. It's going to be live in 25.
Dude, I like that. And I think that a lot of people do. Of course, when the majority of the people voted in this Trump team, and I'm not going to say Trump, I mean a team. For the first time in my
Oh yeah,
lifetime,
yeah,
we voted for a team.
yep,
And that's
yeah.
super important because we really needed to change this world around. You know what? I decided I'm going to pop a lot of memes over top of us as we're talking. I got a lot of good ones through the week that I think are really
Cool.
funny. And
I love
so
that.
it's a bonus. It's a secret bonus for people that watch this on YouTube rather than listen to it.
That's nice.
There's some funny ones. Anyways, I also just this morning started listening to the latest Jordan Peterson podcast, who Peterson's just been trashing Trudeau for the last 4 years
Oh,
of
he
his entire
deserves
pod.
it. Jeez.
Yes. Well, anyways, those of us in the know, meaning those that don't listen to corporate media, know that Trudeau is being drug out by his feet. Like people, all of Canada is finally getting on board and hating this
It
guy.
took so
Because,
long.
exactly, because they're conformists. It's
Yeah.
like is when they're ready to just fall off the cliff, then it's like,
Yeah,
hey,
right.
baby. And so they're all getting on board on getting rid of this guy. And I can't remember the guy's name, two P's. His initials are PP. The guy that's going to be
PierrePoilievre.
there you go. So he's the one being interviewed right now on this latest Jordan Peterson episode. And it is so exciting. You talk about giving you the excitement of 2025 because Canada to me, I've said it many times, is California. They're always
Yes.
leading the pack as far as nutty far left stuff goes. And they're falling off the cliff sooner than the rest of us, right?
Well, and
But they're
Trudeau
coming
and
back.
Newsom are two peas in a pod.
You're exactly
They're
right.
the same guy, different bodies.
They are. And by the way, Canada has the same population as California. There's that.
Isn't that interesting? Wow.
Because Pierre made how do you say his last name?
PierrePoilievre.
Polivier.
Poilievre. PierrePoilievre.
Okay, that's going to be a tough one for me, but okay. But he made the remark. So many things about the economy. It's really a terrific podcast.
He's
Very
an
eye-opening.
economic guy. Like he's
Oh,
very much on onto the economics of things, the costs of they need that there big time.
yeah.
And he comes off. I love how he comes off, the way he talks and everything.
What do you mean?
He's got a great demeanor about him. And it seems like there's a lot of common sense and a
Oh,
lot of
God, yeah.
power. I see him get interviewed a lot of times, and he's eating something while he's like got an
Really?
apple or something. Yeah,
Ah,
I've been watching this guy for about a year now,
oh, okay.
and really love
Me
where he's
too.
coming from. A lot of people are saying that he's very Trump-esque.
Mm,
Others are saying he doesn't even compare. Maybe on the economic side, but everything else kind of falls at that point. But from the political economic side of things, he seems to have very conservative ideals, very
he does.
different
Oh, geez, dude.
from Trudeau,
Yeah,
big
yeah.
time.
He reminds me a little more of Javier Milei,
Yes,
if I
very
said his
much
name,
like him.
in
Yes.
Argentina, who's
Yep.
rescuing Argentina and doing a gangbuster job of that. So,
We've seen a
uh,
rise of people like that in Italy too.
dude, that's
The
what I
prime
mean
minister
about
of Italy.
the positiveness of
Yes.
2025.
Yes, you're
And
right.
so, how do you say his name again?
PierrePoilievre.
Polivier.
Poilievre.
Paula Vier.
There you go. Pierre
Okay.
Poilievre.
Okay, so Mr. P says he just sees and I've been waiting for this forever because I've heard this being projected for the last few years that the younger generation is way more into conservative thought
I've heard that.
because they have no other hope. Because they've been promised this utopia of no work and all this free stuff for years and years and years, and everybody's falling off a cliff. All of a sudden, working sounds great if you can eat and buy something. So this is what's going on, and so it's this whole movement that, as you say, is going on around the world because hey, Europe's been going off a cliff, everybody's been going off a cliff with all this woke BS and all the utopian promises, and we're all about face. It's like now it's like don't call me a bigot or just call me a bigot. I'm still making my point.
Right.
But it used to be the way to stop your conversation and your argument of common sense. They just call you a bigot some way or another, and then that's derails the entire conversation.
Surprising how long that has been effective.
Isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
A good
actually.
15 years or something, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It started with Obama and his identity politics in his second term. It's pretty much what he ran on.
It was so disappointing because I really thought that this was I didn't vote for Obama, but when he won, I thought, well, it's a new day here in America as far as race relations go. We don't have to worry about that anymore. This is the litmus test of if America has risen above the racism. I mean, you'll never get beyond that because people are people, and there's always going to be
Right.
that. But this really was the turning point that somebody that had real good intentions towards the United States, coming in as the first black president, could have capitalized on the goodwill of the American people, and that he won the popular vote twice. I mean, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? But yet
Doesn't it?
we went backwards. I don't understand how
All of
that
a
happened.
sudden, we elect a black president 2 terms in a row, and now we're more racist than we've ever been. Like, okay, how does that math work?
Does not make any sense. It is completely upside down. But I found that since then that a lot of things are upside down.
Well, and that's the point.
Kind of a wake-up call.
It seems like we did a lot of talking about the awakening from woke last year. We predicted that 2024 was that year.
We did, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Like early on and all through. We did. We were consistent.
Yep.
And this year is the turnaround. And
seems that way.
Yeah. So we were talking about New Year's resolutions. You want to know what the top 5 New Year's resolutions are for people over 50?
Yeah, I would imagine that weight is going to be probably the top one.
Number 1, improve health and fitness.
Yeah.
Focus
and everyone's at the gym. It's like if you're a regular gym guy
for 2 weeks in January.
Like the worst time to go, right?
It is.
Everybody's on your machine, sweating it all up and everything.
Dude,
like
I told you
had
last
like
year.
carte blanche on that machine all year long. Now you got to wait in line.
I told you last year. So I go to Planet Fitness, and it's 2 levels. And like January 2nd, I'm working out there, and I never noticed there's an elevator. But it's like, and these 3 fat girls coming off the elevator. They took the elevator to the 2nd floor to do their New Year's resolution of working out. Wow. And I thought, oh my God, the irony on that one.
Right,
I didn't even know there was an elevator.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So anyways, health and fitness is number 1.
Number 1.
Healthier eating, more regular exercise, and managing chronic conditions.
Wow. Number 2, closer, more time with the family.
No, but it is save more money for, it's a good guess though. Save more money for retirement, increase financial security through budgeting, reducing debt, and investing. Do you know how hard that is in our environment right now, our economic?
Right. I mean, people are barely keeping their heads above water right now with inflation. God, I was just at the supermarket 10 billion times over the holidays, and it was like $300, $300. You get like 5 things. It's $300. Like, are you kidding me? Anyway,
that needs to turn around quick. And dude,
it's not sustainable.
So few people, so many people, if you are a fan of your corporate media, then you're on a team, right? And come hell or high water, you're going to be like, it's not that bad. I'm making ends meet. Okay, maybe you're making ends meet, but what about the 50% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, whose paycheck just got cut in half? By inflation.
Right.
I mean, come on, man.
It's crazy. It's
Mr. P on Peterson's podcast, PierrePoilievre.
You got it.
He talked a lot about that. Hey, I did. He talked a lot about that, how it affects the poor people. This printing money, every time you print money, you're killing poor people.
Well, that's exactly right. Because, I mean, I like the analogy, the inflation analogy. You only have one pizza. Now, you could cut it in 8 slices or 16 slices, but at the end of the day, it's the same pizza. And when you print money, all you're doing is cutting that same pizza into smaller pieces. Yeah. And when you eat a piece of that pizza, you don't get as full. You need more pizza. It's the same thing. They're not creating money when they print money. They're actually taking money from you, the actual value of your. It is an invisible tax. It is so unfair. It's like,
because we don't vote on it.
To be approved by the people, right? It's government of the people, by the people, and for the people. At least here in America. But then when you print the money, you circumvent that system, and you say we know more than you do, and then we're serving at the pleasure of government rather than the government serving at the pleasure of the citizens, and that's upside down. And hopefully Poilievre can turn that around here in this country. That's why they voted for Trump.
Right. Yeah. Well said. Number 3, travel more. Prioritize experiences and visiting bucket list destinations. I know Lisa and I Have a couple on our list. One of them is going out west. Hopefully, there's a bike ride in Utah in the future for you and I, Merle.
Oh, I
In
would
that,
love that.
yeah, is visit the canyons and some things like that. The other is getting out to Lisa's homeland of Sicily, and
Wow.
yeah. So those are two that hopefully are in our near future. Number four. Okay, so you almost said this one before. Strengthen relationships.
Right on.
Yeah, spend quality, dude. You just did this. Spend quality time with family, friends, or a partner. And your holidays were all of that. And I
Oh my
loved
gosh.
hearing about it. Just we had an hour and a half long conversation a few days ago, and I got privy to all of those stories, which
Oh, it was epic.
the best was you and Scott on your motorcycles. Thank God you still have the two motorcycles, so you and Scott
Ah,
could ride. And in your mom and your father-in-law were in town, and you rode over there, and your mom cried seeing you two
oh my
riding
gosh.
up on a motorcycle.
It was epic. Yeah, so right, I can't even add to that. It was just epic that we were together and we got to do
All
this.
of you,
What a blessing.
and
What a
you just
blessing.
saw your kids
Kids
the
were
week
here.
before
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
magic.
outstanding. It really was. And I feel like we did so much and so many things. We had such great food, but boy, was that ever exhausting.
Yeah.
Getting all just preparing and doing all that kind of stuff. So, but it sure was worth it, and I
Yeah.
can't wait till we do it again.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay, you'll never guess what number five is of the New Year's resolutions for people over 50. It's declutter and simplify life. And
Well, yeah,
at face value, I think that sounds brilliant because
I think so too.
decluttering and simplifying means de-stressing, cleaning things up, getting things in order. But there's another darker side to this as I read it. I shouldn't have said it that way, but it says description is downsize belongings, organize homes, all good, and embrace a minimalist lifestyle. That last part makes me think, once again, I'm seeing our preparation for 15-minute cities.
Yeah, I don't like the okay, what why do I have to do that? I do like the fact that we can minimize the amount of junk that we're carrying around with us. I think that's important. And therefore, when I'm, hey, where did the X go? Whatever that is, it's so much easier to find. And also, you can become a lot more mobile if you streamline yourself. If you decide, hey, I want to move over to this
Very
area or
true.
that area, man, having that stuff streamlined is a big deal. Because when Anne Marie and I moved here from Los Angeles, holy
It's the
cow,
worst.
the
Oh, I
amount of
remember
work
that.
that we did, oh,
The
it
the
was 30
several
days.
series of
Ah,
decluttering
that
and
was
getting rid
it.
of stuff.
I had file cabinets full of stuff I hadn't looked at for over a decade,
Yeah.
and then going through that. There was a high dose of emotion too, because there was a whole lot of stuff I found that my dad's stuff I hadn't seen in a
Yeah.
long time. So it was like you had to keep moving, but you're crying.
Yeah. No, I know. I do this periodically too, and I just went through another round of trying to get rid of things. And
Yeah, it's
and
hard.
with that, as we get older, I do think it's freeing. It's getting rid of attachments, and there's something it's freeing.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
yeah,
Once you do it, then you feel so much better. But
lighter, as you said, you're more mobile.
the actual doing it though can be stressful. I mean, when you're getting rid of
Yeah.
things, you have that sentimental attachment to, although you haven't seen it for like 15 years because it was buried under a bunch of
Yeah.
crap. But then you're just like, I can't get rid of that. But why not? You haven't seen it for 15 years.
You know what I got rid of recently?
What was it?
Two of my real portfolios, meaning physical port from
Yeah.
college
I
and
remember
from my
those.
first couple years, several years of working. So there is a lot
Oh,
of nostalgia there, but you know what? I haven't looked at them in 20 years. So
man.
I just threw them away. And you
Wow.
know what? Here's what the point I want to make to that. is if you're struggling with things like that so much, even if it's family out, take pictures of them and archive them, dude.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love that.
So you
Great
can
idea.
always have that, like you can at least tell yourself that, even though you're not going to look at them
Right,
any more than you were
right.
before. So
Well,
then,
and when I think about all the work that you put into those portfolios,
oh
Barry, I
gosh,
mean,
yeah,
I never saw anybody work any harder in
yeah,
college than you.
yeah. I really did, but you know what? Until just now, I had not thought about the fact that I threw those away until just now when we were just talking
Mhm.
about it. You. I
Yeah,
had to
it only
dig it
hurts for
up.
a second. Yeah,
Yeah,
only
yeah,
hurts for a
yeah,
second.
yeah. So here's another top five. What are the top five biggest stories of 2024?
Ooh, okay. Huh.
Now,
Man.
this is from the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
So I think we might disagree. But
Okay.
number one, we might agree on, maybe, Donald Trump's reelection.
Oh, well, that absolutely has to be the biggest story of the decade, really,
Yeah.
that happened. Holy
But
cow.
as we go through, like the next one's also like, oh yeah, the Israeli Hamas conflict, the war
Jeez.
between Israel and Hamas
Yeah.
intensified, leading to significant casualties. Oh, dude, that's been off. I mean, and first of all, it's in the news every single day. And I'm still going to say what I've said since the very beginning of this. Why is all this our business to the extent that we make it our business?
And the interesting thing is how Israel, a country smaller than New Jersey, is basically the center of the world. You
Uh
can't
huh. Uh huh.
deny that when things happen there, it has a ripple effect throughout the whole world. What happened on October 7th? Uh, I guess that was 2023, really, when that
Yes.
happened. But
Yes.
still, what
The
happened
ramifications were
sent a ripple
largely,
throughout the whole world
yeah.
that we're dealing with here today. And, from a biblical point of view, there are some prophetic things that are happening right there. We won't get into, but it is amazing that this has happened and that we're still dealing with the fallout from this.
Yeah, for sure. Because I don't think there's much of a solution there. I mean, and they have to agree to it. That not us. Whatever we agree on doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. These guys got to figure it out and accept it. They had 1967. They had the borders all set and everything. Well, they decided to go back to war over it once again. So
I was just studying about the Six-Day War in 1967, and how it started was the Russian government had spread a rumor to the Egyptian government that the Israelis were about to attack them. This was not actually true. But
wow,
what happened was the Egyptian government started to gather troops on the southern border. They got Jordan to gather troops on their eastern border, and the attack was on. It was only 6 days, miraculous battles that happened for the Israelis. They were outnumbered 4-1, and they were within the first few days they were able to recapture Jerusalem for the first time in over 2,000 years.
wow.
That actually happened on my birthday, June 7th, 1967, my first birthday. And this was a miracle of miracles that had been prophesied in the Bible 2,500 years before that. Amazing, amazing stuff. And I just read a whole book about it, and it's really, when you start to look at this whole thing that happened with Hamas and Israel, and then you look at the actual history rather than just listen to what people are saying, and
Opinions,
you
yeah.
go and you can go back thousands of years in the history of this, and when you see this, it's pretty eye-opening how these miracles have happened to cause the Jewish people to have this land back, and how it had been prophesied that uh, uh, they would be purged from the land, and how it would come back again after a long period of time. Nothing like that's ever happened in human history.
And it's also a good example of how far back in history do you go before you stop considering things or start considering things relevant? My point to that is the whole ridiculous colonial movement that's been going on for about 5 years or whatever. Oh, we colonize, Americans are horrible people because they colonized this land. And so, and then, the slavery, like we were the first people to have slaves.
Yeah, we invented it.
We invented slavery. No, we're not the ones that ended it. We actually like there's all this cherry picking that goes on. How do you pick, like, dude, follow your own crazy ass methodology and we're all going to end up back in Africa or whatever, you know?
Right. Well, and even like you get the impression that only black people were slaves when
Right.
And I found out that the word slave actually comes from the word Slav, as in Slavic,
Oh,
because that's where traditionally in Europe, a big bounty of slaves were coming from for a long period of time. And so it's just it wasn't until late in history that they started getting slaves out of Africa, and the Africans were enslaving themselves and selling
uh-huh.
slaves. I mean, the whole history
Still are.
that we know of here in this country is jacked up for a political purpose
Uh-huh.
to
And for
prove to
dummies.
score political points for people that want to stay in power politically. That's
Yeah,
just it.
yeah. And a lot of dummies find it easy to jump on. Here's the other thing, because it's like these same dummies have that Poilievre.
Yeah, PierrePoilievre, you
He
got it.
was just no, it was somebody on Jordan Peterson's podcast before that, but said Americans generally have this one view of Canada, that it's this socialist utopia, then Trudeau's a great guy and blah, blah, blah. But if you follow real news, you realize the death spiral it's been in since Trudeau's been in there and where they are now. And we just talked about that. But okay, so the same dummies believe that if we didn't colonize this, then the American Indians, Native Americans would be living happily ever after here, as if there weren't a whole bunch of warring tribes vying for the same land right here, set very, very savagely. Like, learn a bit about that.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, that's all they were doing. It was a
Uh,
whole bunch of different nations inside of
yeah.
this
Yeah.
nation,
Yeah.
inside of this land, and lots of war that was going on. That's exactly not what would have been going on here. Is all
Right.
this peaceful stuff.
Right.
We just entered into a story that was already going on
That's a good way to put it.
the Europeans got here. So it is amazing too how
And there's
little
also nothing we could do about it. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Because it
And
already happened.
every land in the world, you could say the same thing about.
Absolutely.
It's just it's silly how how we look at it.
All right, dude. I'm going to just read the next three, the final three
Yeah.
of the top stories, as the Wall Street Journal says, because I think we'll disagree. Okay, number three, artificial intelligence regulation. The European Union passed the Artificial Intelligence Act, becoming the world's first comprehensive legal framework for AI. I didn't even know that.
I didn't either. I don't know how that becomes one of the top five biggest stories, but
Here's
it's
one I'm sure you
interesting.
know.
Yeah.
I
All right.
did not. Number four, Sweden joins NATO. Sweden
Yes.
officially became the 32nd member of NATO, marking a significant expansion of the alliance.
And Denmark also this past year, which
That's
is an
kind of big.
expansion of NATO. It's huge. It goes against our agreement, that all of our agreements that we had, that we are you hear our politicians talking about this war in Ukraine and how Putin's got designs on Ukraine, and then he's going to keep expanding out towards the West, and he's going to have form the old Soviet Union. Well, NATO's doing the same thing. They're expanding towards Russia and Finland. It's Finland, but and Denmark both apart, and Sweden. And so they're all getting bigger and bigger. Which the whole reason NATO was formed was because of the threat of the USSR, and so while we are so concerned about Putin expanding, that's exactly what we're doing towards him.
Uh-huh.
And the
Yes.
fact that this whole thing started over Ukraine potentially being a part of NATO, and here we are expanding NATO. It's and calling Putin a madman. I think we need to look at the whole situation much more realistically because there's no real good
Totally
guys
agree.
in this at all.
No, I totally agree with you. Okay,
And let me
go
just
ahead.
move on
Sure.
because this is a side note, but Tulsi Gabbard is now talking about uh, these facilities within Ukraine that are testing facilities. They're biolabs actually sponsored by the United States, and we've got about 30 of them in the Ukraine. And they are in the war zone, and these can easily be turned into bio disasters. And she just
Oh,
came out and warned about that this week, that she is vying for the national intelligence lead, and so she's coming out with this. And before she came out with this, we all looked at this as, oh no, this is all conspiracy theory.
everything.
Now it's the head of national security that's actually confirming that that is indeed what us for why the war is happening in the first place.
Okay, number 5 is global elections. 2024 was marked by numerous significant elections worldwide, including Portugal, Russia, and South Korea. South Korea very much in the news this morning,
Wow.
leading to notable political shifts. Okay, so that's from the Wall Street Journal's point of view, the top 5 stories.
I would agree with that last one.
Oh, okay, okay. Now,
Yeah.
see, my thoughts on this are because we come at this from a real podcaster's point of view, meaning our news is a little bit different than mainstream media. It's actually a lot
Thank
different.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. I would mark our up there in this top 5. There are 2 for sure. One is the dethroning of Biden.
Yo, yeah, you're right.
Uh-huh.
That is huge.
How is that
Huge.
not number one,
How is that?
maybe?
How is it? I agree. I agree. Yeah, that
Mhm.
was so unprecedented. I don't know that we ever saw anything like that, except for maybe the first presidential election, which wasn't there was no popular vote for that. So maybe that was close, but man,
Yeah, yeah.
how does that
So,
not destroy the Democrat Party?
well, okay. So another one that would be in my top 5, which you would never find in mainstream media because it's about mainstream media. And that is on the heels, because of the dethroning of Biden, we witnessed. Now, how does the Democratic Party survive this? But I think it paved the way to a Trump landslide. And that is when you see idiots like Joe Scarborough go on TV and say, Biden is sharp as a tack and he's the sharpest he's ever been, or you can go F yourselves. And then 2 weeks later, the dethroning of Biden in all of mainstream media turns on a dime and changes their tune. So, in
Yeah.
other words, I want to say the headline should have been the exposure of mainstream media right there at that time.
I think you're right about that. I think you're right because I mean they really were exposed and they were being exposed for years ahead of that,
Uh
and I think
huh.
that's what we were seeing
But this one
with.
was irrefutable.
You're right. This was a big turning point, and
Mm.
and something that you and I talked about quite a bit on the way to it.
Yeah.
But I think that was the debate between Trump and Biden
Uh huh.
after the
Uh huh.
press had touted, like Morning Joe had
Sharp as
touted
a
so
tack.
so hard that he was sharp as a tack, and then we saw this man just collapse like a house of cards
Yeah.
on national television, and everybody knew it. And so then they picked Kamala, and I still am puzzled by
Kinda.
this. I
Kinda
think this
picked her.
is I think this is part of should it's almost two stories. The fact that they had Joe Biden step down, but then why did they pick Kamala to do this? I have a feeling that there's a story there that we'll hear years from now
Uh huh.
on how she used the DEI to force them into choosing her. Like, how could you choose anybody except for the first black woman vice president? And if you don't do that, we're going to barbecue you people with your own medicine. And I just, it was a terrible situation. It was terrible for America. But I think that on the same hand, maybe it was the greatest thing that could have happened for America because
Uh
now we're
huh.
looking at a whole different ball game for this country, and I think that's part of the reason I'm so optimistic about 2025.
Merle, how many times have you and I had this conversation both in private and on the podcast? How far does that damn pendulum have to swing?
Man, we said that so much.
Uh-huh. Well, you just described it. It had to go into complete silly land all at once.
It really did. It
And
really
thank
did.
God it did. Okay. I have another top five. That is fun and quick. Top five states people moved to in 2024.
Ah,
You will never guess what number one is.
really? I'll never guess.
I
Well, then
bet you
that
can guess the next four, but you
okay.
can't guess number one.
All right.
But give me one.
You're okay. Well, now that you said that, it can't be
Give me
Texas or
three.
Florida or Arizona or even Nevada. So
You
it's
got
got to be
two. You got two of the
okay.
top five there.
All right. Let's see here. Can't be Illinois. Tennessee.
Tennessee is on. You got three out of the five.
Okay. What is it?
Okay, number one, dude, is freaking Arkansas. Arkansas.
Wait, what?
Because of the affordable housing, the low cost of living, and proximity to family. Oh, here's another thing that Poilievre
Polivier.
he said. Okay, so I just got the quick aside. My brother and sister-in-law, brother just retired, and they got that fifth wheel, that big thing that you pull with the truck, a big camper
Oh
that you pull with
yeah.
the truck.
Yeah.
And they went out west. They've been just chasing the beautiful weather. They came back for Christmas, left the fifth wheel out there. It flew home for Christmas, are flying back in like a week. Anyways, they spent a bunch of time in Mississippi. And I'm like, dude, I never thought once in my life I want to go to Mississippi. And he comes back with all these very, very nice pictures. Reminds me a lot of Sarasota and Siesta Key,
Huh. Yeah.
where we
Yeah.
go every year. And so it was really pretty. I was like, wow, never thought about going to Mississippi on a vacation. Now I'm actually thinking about it. Well, Poilievre says that he was comparing Canada to Mississippi, and he says Mississippi is the poorest state in the United States. I did not know that. And he's comparing Canada to Mississippi in that regard.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, I would have picked West Virginia as the poorest state, or maybe Arkansas or something like that, but it's Mississippi.
Interesting.
Anyways, so I'm thinking about that, and I'm reading about Arkansas right here, right now, and it's like, well, you know what? Everybody's going to start pouring into Mississippi because of the economy and not being able to afford housing and things like that, and in West Virginia, for that matter. I mean,
Isn't it interesting how, I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking about the beauty of this country and the fact that because we are the United States and not just America, that you have choices now.
yeah,
Every state has a different government and is run differently. So therefore you can have a difference in cost of living, and you can move if like for instance, the cost of living in California too much, move to Arkansas
yeah,
and really like exponentially increase the value of all of your savings that you've made.
yes,
This
good
is
point.
a pretty huge thing that you can do. And really, I can't think of another country where the dynamics would be anything like that
You know what?
because we don't have a national government. We have an overlay on top of our state governments, which really are the same government. Really, when you really look at our Constitution, it's the state government that you live in, the state, and then it's the border of your state that the federal government has jurisdiction over. And
Interesting.
before we had a federal government in our colonies, what we had was we had a state government with a person that was appointed to be the like a national representative or international affairs office, but it was all part of the state government. And so,
Huh.
so really, it's the state that's preeminent over the federal government, and the federal government is really only responsible for the borders. Again, I
Uh,
talked about this last time. Our founding fathers were vehemently against having a state within a state.
yeah.
So you have the state, but on the perimeter of the state is the federal government, not a state within a state. Of course, we've bollocksed that all up.
Yes, we have.
And also, I think it's interesting right now as we take a look at Trump about to take office on January 20th and this whole immigration thing and the issue of sanctuary cities. I think that's going to come to a head pretty quickly because of this whole states having the preeminence over the federal government. And if you're saying that you have a sanctuary city, well, if the people are already in your state and have already surpassed the border, it seems to me that constitutionally the state has the right to say, or a city has the right to say within a state that we're going to remain a sanctuary city. Now, I don't like that.
Yeah, I hear
I
you.
don't want to have sanctuary cities. However, when I take a look at the lifelong battle here in the United States between the state government and the federal government, and the federal government having been winning that battle for the last 200 years,
Yeah, yeah.
this federal government has become way more powerful than our founders ever intended. And so I think it's
Preach,
going to
man.
be interesting to see how this all works out. And the bottom line on this is that we as a citizenry need to be much more involved in our state and local governments, because that's where things happen. And that's where the
Yes,
real
yes.
fight is. And that's what's trying to, our state. And the reason it's so important is because this is where your backyard is. This is where you're affected personally. This is a
Yes.
personal thing. And the feds can't come in and tell you what to do. It's the other way around. We're
Absolutely.
supposed to be telling them what to do.
We
And
have
they've
everything
gotten us
backwards.
convinced. Yes, they've gotten us convinced that it's the tail that wags the dog.
There you go.
And we got to stand against that. We gotta come together. We don't have to yell. We don't have to shout. All we have to do is calmly know and then act as a unit, united. That's what a unit is. It's
Mhm.
united. And right now, we've been so divided by the very people that want to inflict this type of tyrannical government on us that we have to realize that this is the bamboozle that's happening.
It's very
And
true.
anyway,
And dude, you
we'll get there. I think we'll get there, Barry.
well, I'm glad that you have that very positive look on things. You can look at whether you're talking about a very local government, state government, or the federal government. You can see the attitude is to treat we the people as children and products. And that is what has
Yes.
to change.
That is exactly right. Barry, I can we move on to this thing that happened on New Year's Day, New Year's
Yeah,
Eve
let
in
me just read
Louisiana? Yeah.
the finish that off because you had 3 out of the 5 anyway. So Arkansas, Texas, booming job market. Florida, warm climate, retirement friendly. North Carolina was the one you didn't get. Strong
Oh,
job market, scenic beauty, moderate cost of living.
it is a beautiful state.
It is. Lisa and I love North Carolina,
Yep,
as you know.
I do too.
So go ahead, take that away.
Well, we were looking at this thing that happened on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day in Louisiana, New Orleans, where
Oh,
this
right.
person, let's see, I don't have the name in front of me. Jabbar is the last name, ran over all of these people. And we're talking about state and local and national government right now. And the FBI now is on top of this. And this is where I'm going with this is that um, it seems to me that when our national government takes over, that the local people end up not getting the real story on what's actually happening.
Agreed.
And to me, this is where our protection is it's not, our protection doesn't come from the federal government when it comes to local issues. It comes to the local government. And what we have there is a local problem. The problem actually occurred because the barriers for those for Bourbon Street in that one particular area were not up, and typically that is up. And this terrorist was able take advantage of that situation. But when you have the FBI come in, the first thing that they do is they try to shield us from the information that actually could prevent other cities from having the problem. The very first thing the FBI did when they came in is say that it was not a terrorist act. Now, it's the very definition of a terrorist act. I
Yeah.
mean, what
Yeah.
what are you talking about? How could you say that a person mowing down multiple people with his car in a heavily populated area on a night of revelry here in the United States that everyone in the world is watching? How can you say that that's not terror? That's the definition of terrorism right there.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, the guy had an ISIS flag on his car. The first thing the FBI did was they covered up the flag and tried to hide the fact that he had an ISIS flag on there. Why? Why?
Yeah, why?
Why
I
would
mean,
you do
seriously,
that?
what is your theory on that?
Then you have well, here's I'll go to that in a second. Then you have a press conference, and in the press conference you have various politicians, one of them being Senator Kennedy. I like him a lot, by the way. And what he was saying in that press conference was that the American people deserve to hear the truth, and that his whole goal was to make sure that we were not filtered, the truth was not filtered, and that we could know the truth. And if he got a hint that we weren't getting the truth, that he would be on that like a person that had stolen Christmas. That's what he said. But the way he adamantly was all over that point, making me feel like he knows that something's already been hidden from the general public regarding this. And when you take a look at how the FBI acted immediately on this, it seems very weird. Like, for instance, we heard right away that it wasn't a terror event, and also that this person was working in coordination with others, and that the truck itself had been rented and came across the border at Eagle Pass back in November, and that the driver of the car wasn't actually the person that rented the car. Then the very next day, we heard, nope, he's not working with anybody. He was a lone wolf. And all the talk about the car coming over the border suddenly lost in the press. How could that happen? And that's what I'm saying. I don't feel like we're getting the truth about this. I feel like there's some kind of cover up. Joe Biden, in his presidency, adamantly told us that ISIS was not a threat to the United States, and the threat to the United States was white supremacy and domestic terrorists who
Yeah,
were
thanks
white
for that, Joe.
supremacists.
Yeah.
Now, think about this, Barry. Over the last 4 years, our FBI has been very focused on, let's say, parents that were protesting CRT at school boards. They were
Yeah.
called domestic terrorists. We were told that Catholics were potentially domestic terrorists. They were focused on Catholics and chasing around Catholics. Anybody that tried to come against these protests that were happening with Hamas, they were investigating those people, not the protesters. They've gone after the January 6 people. So how could they actually go after real terrorists? I mean, how many people are there at the FBI? You're chasing around people that are not terrorists and combining them with actual terrorists. I have a feeling that this guy in Louisiana was on their list, and they were watching him, and they dropped the ball. The way the questions were answered, the way people were backpedaling, I think this guy was on their list, and they dropped the ball, and then this happened. Here's one other last thing I'll point out, is that they canceled the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Day. They had it the next day, and during that same press conference, a very good question was asked of the governor. Governor, why do you feel so confident that it'll be safe at the Cotton Bowl tomorrow as opposed to today? And his answer was, because I'm going to be there. That is not an answer. It almost makes me think this guy knew what was going to happen before it happened, and therefore knows that it's not a threat anymore. I don't know, but I think that's a strange answer to give, and it makes the whole thing smells. The whole thing doesn't smell right.
Devil's advocate on that one. Perhaps what the governor was insinuating, and I feel kind of strongly about this, is he's like, because local law enforcement is now going to protect supply the protection on this.
But local law enforcement was already scheduled to be there. This is a very high profile event. It's the Cotton Bowl. And so you would have thought that they would have taken all of the precautions ahead of that. Even terrorist precautions would have been taken care of because it is a high profile event. So again, what has changed to give them this confidence that nothing is going to happen if you delay it by 24 hours? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense.
I can only see that it sounds to me like he was trying to deliver a message there. And that is the feds are out of this. We have an extra day to fortify the protection with the knowledge that they have. That is my guess.
Yeah. And the very
I think he was slamming the feds on that one.
And maybe I'm just saying that I don't know. All I know is that as I listen to this, and we've talked about this before, as I listen to this, I'm smelling the same cooking as I have been the last 5 or 6 years. It seems like deception. It seems like they're trying to pull the wool. Why would you hide the ISIS flag? Why would you say it wasn't a terrorist event? Not to mention all these other weird things between that and the thing that happened in Las Vegas at the Trump Hotel, where you have these similarities between these two things, and now you're showing the explosion. It is so crazy how this could have happened. Yeah, it is small, but you can see it. You can even see the fireworks going off. So this car, it's the Tesla Cybertruck, pulls up to the Trump Tower in Vegas and blows up within 20 seconds of it pulling up. They're saying that both of these people that perpetrated this are in the army, in the military. They
were in the same unit.
They went to Fort Bragg. Both of them were at Fort Bragg. Both of them were served in Afghanistan in 2009. Both of them used the same app to rent an electric truck. You know, and the app is not it's not something I travel. I've never heard of this app before. And so you have these similarities. And here's the other one. The man that blew up inside of that Tesla, they're saying that he had a bullet in his head. So, and they're saying that he shot himself in the head before the car blew up. So I just got to ask you, like, why would you do that? Why would you shoot yourself in the head if you know you're going to blow up? And none of that makes sense. And how do you know after you shoot yourself in the head that your little thing is going to blow up anyhow? And doesn't Tesla have and maybe you were telling me about this, doesn't Tesla have like an automatic driving ability where you could program it to drive somewhere?
Auto drive,
So couldn't this guy have been killed and then sent up there like it's a false flag? Like, why are our military people doing this? This is all really interesting things to think right here.
And the news has just been there's one. It's like a soap opera. There's one follow-up story after another. So I haven't
this
been
guy
able to really
drives up to this site, and within 20 seconds, he shoots himself in the head and then blows up his car. Well, it doesn't make sense that you shot yourself in the head. I mean, if you're going to blow yourself up, what's the point of shooting yourself in the head? None of that makes any sense. And also the fact that the thing blows up, and because it's a Tesla, the explosion goes upwards and doesn't injure really anybody. And it's basically a high-powered dud. And here Elon kind of took a lap on that and said, "Yeah, you used the wrong vehicle to blow stuff up. It's a Tesla, don't you know?" But
all I know is the symbolism there to do that outside the Trump Tower with an Elon Musk.
Car.
Yeah. And what bothers me about this is what kind of more crazy, insane things like this are we going to see leading up to the inauguration? Maybe the day of the inauguration will be really devastating.
I think the same thing, Barry, that this seems to lead to the idea that we're going to see a lot of turbulence on the way to January 6th.
Yeah, I don't like the sounds of that. And will it all of a sudden subside after January 20th? And you just said January
I
6th.
said 6th and I meant the 20th, but we
Oh,
do
okay.
have this January 6th thing coming up where
Uh-huh.
Raskin has talked about invoking the 14th Amendment to disqualify Trump from the
I've
presidency.
heard that several
And
times.
the rampaging MAGA fans that will cause a civil war to happen. That's what Raskin said. That's a pretty powerful guy in Congress to be talking like that.
Hmm.
And so we'll see what happens on January 6th.
There's something interesting right there, this MAGA thing, which is supposed to be such a pejorative. And when you have the vast majority of the country voting for Trump and you want to still, you're a minority that has been losing your traction in the media, in the government, in every way, and you're still going to continue to try to use pejoratives. And why don't you just go back to the whole Nazi thing and,
Yeah.
and the Hitler thing? And somebody, and I don't remember who off the top of my head right now, was talking, it may have been James Lindsay in his latest podcast. I don't remember, but said that there's a MAGA 1 and MAGA 2.0 or something. Maybe it wasn't said in that regard, but the new MAGA, maybe it was that. And that is all the people that jumped on board after seeing Biden loses marbles, the whole exposure of all of that, pushing out Kamala Harris, and all the people that switched over to the Trump side of things because they're like, what the hell's going on with this country?
Right.
So to continue to use this pejorative against these people that have been enlightened, I think that's a really dangerous place to play.
Well, it seems to be working against them. I
My
mean,
point
it almost
exactly.
seems like, well, keep on doing it then, because you're turning off more and more people that are coming over to the the sunny side of things, and the it's too bad that it's like that. I thought things. I had a funny feeling that things might change for these people, but I guess not.
Well, for a lot they have. I mean, I always think about the Zuckerberg thing about him trying to extend an olive branch when he saw the writing on the wall. And there's other instances like that. But
There's a lot. I mean, he's given $1 million to the inaugural fund for
I didn't
Trump,
know
and
that.
so is
Actually, I did hear
Bezos has
that.
given $1 million, as well as
Sure.
there's a lot of these billionaires are doubling down, especially in the tech industries, are doubling down on donations to Trump for the
Sure.
inauguration. And, of course, they are in the doghouse anyhow, and they're trying to find a way to find favor. A lot of people are kind of like, why do we even have anything like this where these billionaires can win favor by donating money
Absolutely.
like this? And
And first of all,
it's
it's a
not just Trump,
pittance.
it's every party that does this. Yeah, so um it's
I
very
hope,
interesting.
yeah, I hope he doesn't fall for that because
I
literally
hope
they
not
give
either.
you several $1 million, which is like a few cents to them. And
It
so
is.
that you don't uh, do the whole monopoly thing on us and tear us apart. Boy, I hope that things change drastically here
I
very
feel
quickly.
like, say what you will about Trump. I feel like he's smarter than falling for that, especially after he experienced what he experienced in the first 4 years. All of these people stabbed him in the back, and or really stabbed him in the front. They banned him from their
Uh-huh.
platforms.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
said
yeah.
the most horrible things. And so I don't think Trump is going into this blind,
Unconstitutional, by the way.
but he'll take their money. And I think if I were in that boat, I might do the same thing. Interestingly, Joe Biden during his inauguration didn't take any money from the tech sector for his inaugural fund.
Well, that's
It
interesting.
is interesting.
What do you make of that?
I think it was such a politically charged time with censorship going on when
Uh,
he was running that he
I didn't want
he was
the
trying to,
optics.
yeah, trying to avoid the optics. He was getting tons of money from other places. And we're seeing now where, I mean, Congress with the Republicans are coming out and saying, well, now we can see that you received $27 million, the Biden family, and they're trying to make a they're trying to make an appeal for an impeachment before the 20th. I think it's a waste of time, but that if there's anything that needs to happen, it can happen after he's out of the presidency. And there should be some legal challenges to a lot of the things that he did. And first and foremost is, what about those documents that he had all up in his house? Um, he many of the documents that Trump had were, I mean, all of them were when he was the president, and the president has the ability to declassify things just by saying they're declassified. The vice president never had that. And Joe Biden having these types of documents from when he was the vice president is highly, highly illegal.
Dude, you hadn't even hit on the most disturbing part of that for me. And that is the judge, I think it was the judge that interviewed him on this, deemed him to be too incompetent to stand trial, saying he was just a forgetful old man. And yet he's too incompetent to stand trial, but he can sign all of these. He can sign off Hunter Biden on what do you call that?
Oh yeah, the pardon.
Pardons, all of these pardons on all these people. Not to mention he's the one responsible for his hand on the button of nukes. All of these things, he's competent enough. He's so incompetent that he cannot continue to run for presidency, but he can remain in power, so supposedly, all the rest of this time. That's the most disturbing part.
It is. And also, he thinks now, he's actually said out loud that he regrets stepping down and believes he could have beaten Trump. And that just speaks to his mental state, because there was no way that he could have done that. And you're right. The guy has access to the button. So I wonder if we'll ever find out who the real people were that were running our government.
I think sometime down the road. I think it seems like this is just continuing to unravel, like, very quickly. And they didn't see it coming. They didn't think Trump could win again. And thought calling him a Nazi and Hitler and all this was a perfect way to go, until Democrats started defecting and coming over here, like Tulsi and RFK Jr. Dude, that was the game changer. That's when the American public started going, whoa, man, whoa.
Yeah, and Barry, just want to add to that top 5 news stories, and you said Trump winning the election, but there were several things in that, and one of them was, I felt like the biggest turning point to me was when he got shot in the ear.
Oh, and, right, yeah. Then, how do we not say that?
Getting shot in the ear, and then
talk about a story being buried.
Standing right, and then standing up with your fist in the air and going, fight, fight, fight. I mean, first off, I'm getting goosebumps. Who does that? I mean, seriously, you just got shot in the head and you stand up and you say, fight, fight, fight. Like, who does that? To me, like, when that happened, it seemed to me like, how can this guy not win? It seems like he's ordained to win this. How did he turn his head at that split second? He turned his head to look at that graphic up there. He says he never does that. It just seemed like there was a thing that was happening that was supposed to happen. It was almost like when John Elway beat the Browns in the drive. It was like a divine appointment. The Browns were not supposed to win that. And it's just like Kamala was not supposed to win this election. Trump was supposed to be in there. I mean, it seemed like that to me.
Dude, to me, the issue that the press, the level, to the extent that they went to bury the biggest story of the decade.
Right.
It truly was.
They did.
And they really did. It was not talked about after. And literally the headlines around the world should be like, what do you expect when you call a guy Hitler for 3 years or what have you?
It instantly turned him into an international hero. I remember seeing.
I do not believe that one bit.
Oh yeah, well, I saw videos of little kids in Africa that were put together a play where they actually reenacted the whole thing and celebrated it. What that would never have happened at any other time. It did turn him into an international. People were seeing this and they were just like, I cannot believe that this guy did this. Even Zuckerberg said, wow, I saw that and that was badass. I mean, I never heard the guy say anything like that before. People that didn't like him, maybe they still didn't like him, but they admired him. And that did happen. That did happen.
Okay, we get our news from different sources, and I don't, where I was, the story is more about the story that was buried in the lack of response, the appropriate response to it. Um,
Mainstream media buried it, but I'm just saying that the outside of mainstream media, that story is still being told all around the world.
okay, so I wanted to ask you about a story that keeps cropping up that I had not really been able to wrap my head around why it's so big. And the H1B1. All of a
Yes.
sudden, I'm hearing H1B1 all the time. So I had to look it up on chat and all that. And then briefly, and I want you to comment as much as you want and inform me more about this. It's is a U.S. work visa specifically for citizens of Chile and Singapore created under the free trade agreements. It's similar to the H-1B, but has fewer applicants, faster processing, and no annual lottery system. There are concerns that the H-1B1 visa program allows companies to hire workers from Chile and Singapore at lower wages compared to U.S. citizens, potentially prioritizing cost savings over hiring Americans. Final sentence, but that was the main part. Critics argue this can suppress wages and job opportunities for domestic workers. It's part of a broader debate about visa programs and their economic impact. Okay, Merle, can you shed more light on why is this just all of a sudden coming into the forefront?
I feel like this is coming up because of his policy of deporting illegals, and this is a way to try to circumvent the power that he has or the momentum that he has going into January 20th. Because on January 20th, there's going to be a nuke basically regarding the whole deportation. Everybody sees it coming, everybody knows that it's coming, but they're trying to get him on a technicality on this. It's like, oh, well, you're not really for the protection of the American citizens because you're for this whole H1B1 visa situation. And the way that I look at it is this way. Of course, Trump likes that program. Of course, Elon Musk would like that program. It helps businesses to be able to get the resources that they need in order to be profitable. And when you compare that to what has happened at our border over the past 4 years, we accepted criminals carte blanche. I mean, that's what came across the border.
Oh, yeah.
And what's happening on the business side is that people are coming over that are actually lending a hand to the American story. Now, these are people we want to come into our country because these are people that are actually advancing the ball for our country. I think this is a ploy to make it look like Trump is a dishonest person. And he likes this program because it helps businesses. Now, if H1B1 is promoting an unfair work environment, that's an easy adjustment to make. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater on H1B1. And I think that's exactly what they're going to take a look at here. But I think it's really out there to take away the momentum that he has regarding the deportations that are coming up right now. And I think it's a distraction, to be honest with you. And much like in the news over the past week, all that we're seeing as these terror events in
Mm.
Louisiana and Colorado, when it's the beginning of the year, there's a lot more news out there, but they refuse to cover everything else that's going on. I feel like this is a distraction.
Okay, and along those lines, I really am going to have to get going here. What are your predictions for, say, the next 3 weeks that we have before the inauguration?
Well, it does. I agree with, I think, your sentiment that it does look like we're going to be headed for some chaos here in the next 3 weeks. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I do believe that they've been ramping up for this ever since the election was won by Trump. We've heard about Trump proofing the government before Trump comes into office. We know that there are people out there that absolutely hate Trump and would do things like blow themselves up and shoot themselves in the head. Things like that. If that's happening now, I feel like we're probably going to see more things like this. And I just pray that that our future president is protected up until then and can go through the inauguration, because we're living in a very dangerous time right now.
I agree with you. And I think this whole lame duck president thing has to be rethought, because in my opinion, for the first time ever in this situation, they're planting landmines.
Yeah, and it looks like that. Know? Yeah. And really, if you take a look at the 2016 election and Trump coming in, then they did the same thing. They planted landmines. They perfected the Russian collusion situation. They went after his cabinet members, Flynn being the first one. They wrapped him up with impeachment and tried to do all these different things. Get ready for that. That's all going to happen. If they did the whole lawfare thing to him, which should have been part of the top 5 stories too, the lawfare that they waged against Trump.
Yes.
We never saw anything like that before.
No.
And these people now, they've gone for it. I mean, they've gone too far to turn around at this point, so they're not going to quit. And we're going to see all of that. I really believe at the end of the day, there really is a battle between good and evil that's happening here. I'm not saying that Trump is the epitome of good, because he's not. Nobody is. But I do think that we're operating on a canvas where it is good versus evil. And I think that a big place where that battle is happening is in Washington, D.C. So it's interesting to look at this.
It's the epicenter. With that, we're going to have to get going. Please wait for Mark's AI tip. It's coming up here shortly. I got we like to lighten it up at the very end. I got a good one for you. Please go to over50startingover.com and sign up there and get all this dropped in your email box as it happens. Certainly go to Apple Podcasts so you can listen to this as you're driving around and shopping and so forth. Give us a 5 Apple rating, please. Spotify, catch audio and video there as well. If you're on YouTube, give us a like and a share, please. So to wind this up, do you remember Hilaria Baldwin and her, how you say, cucumber, the fake Spanish person?
How you say?
Dude, she's back at it. So she got, publicly shamed, because she's a white chick from Boston who all of a sudden became well known for her Spanish heritage, grifting on that for 10 years when she married Alec Baldwin, and being a white chick, of course, is not good enough. Listen to her voice in this. And she does this with onions. It's only about 10, 20 seconds. This will take us out.
All right.
And then my husband hates cebolla.
Onions.
I forgot it. Okay.
Cebolla.
So he hates cebolla. And so I grind cebolla and ajo together. And then my husband hates cebolla.
Onions.
I forgot it. Okay.
Cebolla.
So he hates cebolla. And so
Doesn't remember the word for onions.
And then
is she using a Spanish word on that?
Yes.
Onions.
I forgot it. Okay.
Cebolla. Okay, we're out of here. All right, man.
Oh my goodness.
I hope I see you next week.
Hey there, over 50 starting over friends. Mark Tennant back with you with your AI tip of the week. This week, I'm going to share my 3 simple rules for getting what you want out of the AI. It's 3 simple things, easy to learn. This is going to be a fun one today. So rule number one, be specific. We've talked about prompting before, and you don't just want to say, help me with my resume. You want to get a little more specific than that. This is assuming you've uploaded your resume, and then you tell the AI, help me update my resume to highlight highlight my 25 years of sales experience for a senior account position. Much better, giving it better direction. Rule number 2, give it context. The more background you provide, the better the results. Share your relevant details about your situation, procedures, limitations, those types of things. So you want to say something like, I'm transitioning from retail management to customer service, and I want to emphasize my people skills and problem-solving abilities. Once again, this is after you've uploaded your resume and you're talking back and forth with the AI. And finally, rule number 3, ask AI to show you its work. That's right. You can say, hey, walk me through this. Give me a step-by-step answer for your reasoning. Explain what you've done. Something like that. You'll see the results. So let's give you an example. So open up ChatGPT and copy this prompt. You might want to stop the video here and to write the prompt down or get it. But it's I need help planning my retirement budget. I'm 58, planning on retiring at 65. I got about $400,000 in the bank, monthly pension of about $3,000, and walk me through step by step how to create a monthly budget that will last 25 years. And we run that through ChatGPT, and not bad. There you go, step by step. It's telling you, you were specific, you gave it context, you told it to give you your response step by step, and it's done just that. Assess your income situation, adjust for inflation, those types of things, even include Social Security, which I thought was really good in step 5. It even gave me a link to the Social Security Administration's calculator, which I thought was pretty cool. Step 6, building that spending plan, and so forth and so forth. And even at the very end, it even gives you an example of a monthly budget. So not that bad, not bad at all. So a pro tip, if you're not happy with the AI's response, maybe with these simple rules, give it a little more push, give it a nudge. Tell it to be more specific, rephrase your request for and give it more details. Sometimes that small clarification can make a big difference. So remember, as we've always said, prompting AI, it takes practice. It's a tool like anything else. But start with these 3 simple rules, and I really think you'll be amazed at the results you and ChatGPT can come up with. If you want to get a hold of me, I answer every and all emails, mark@marktennant.net. New website coming soon, but we're at marktennant.net. And on the socials, I prefer LinkedIn. I'm at Mark E. Tennant. So until next time, keep practicing, keep refining those prompts, keep learning, and keep using AI.